Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we're taking a look at the new Commander secondary skills. I know it's taken me a little while to get to this. I do apologize. It's been a real crazy past week for me with all the news coming out from Wargaming concerning this, that, and the other, and just a general crazy week in life in general. But anyway, we're finally taking a look at these now, and you have, when this video goes up, you have one more day to try these out for yourselves on the PT server. However, I don't know about everyone else, but for me, the PT server has been absolutely just, I don't know if it's its optimization or something. It just runs like crap for me. And I have no problem running the base game on my computer. Exact same settings, exact same PC. I've got an i9-9900K and a 2080 Ti with 62 gigs of RAM. This computer should have no problem running this game in like 3 different windows at the same time. But the PT server has been kind of sketchy for me, and you'll see that in some of the footage that I have recorded. But anyway, the new commander skills, especially the secondary skills, those are the ones that we are focusing on today. They did go over and change a lot of commander skills. You can go check out my dev blog video for that, but we're going to be focusing again on the secondary ones today. So what's the big thing that changed if you're not up to speed? Well, they changed basically the most important skill, the improved secondary battery aiming skill, or manual fire for secondaries for you old school guys out there. So what they did was first off, they removed the 10% boost to the reload time from close quarters combat expert to improve secondary battery aiming. So meaning you no longer get the 10% boost to your reload time from the close quarters combat skill. That's now just in the improved secondary battery aiming skill, which is manual fire for secondary. So that skill gained that buff out the bat, which means you could potentially not take close quarters combat and take something else like fire prevention or concealment, which is pretty good. I would still take close quarters combat just because it still gives you the 10% boost to your main battery load time, which in a brawling situation is a big deal. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So that's one thing they did. The second thing, which is a huge thing, is they changed the mechanic of manual fire for secondaries, or improved secondary battery aiming. The way it works now is that once you select a target for your secondaries to focus on, you now gradually build up accuracy over time, up to a 50% boost, which is much more than you got with the the current secondary commander skill, which is about a 30-ish% boost, if I'm remembering correctly. So you get 20% more accuracy, but it takes time for it to build up. Now, the dev blog and the website's kind of vague on how it exactly works, but they do clarify in an FAQ section at the bottom of the dev blog. So in the first 10 seconds of firing, you will get to essentially what is the current boost with the current improved secondary battery aiming skill. So within 10 seconds, you're where we're at now. Then over the next 35 seconds, you build up to that 50% boost. Meaning, if a target is within your secondary range for 45 seconds, you now have a 50% boost to your secondary accuracy just from the skill. So add on top of that the module, and if you've got someone like Lucian's on your ship with the improved reload time, once you get the secondary the secondary skill kicked off, which is after 100 secondary shell hits, you're now got all that stacked on top of each other, the improved reload time, the boost from the module, and the boost from the German battleships if you're playing them, because remember, German battleships got a 22.5% baked in accuracy boost to their secondary guns. So stack all that on top of each other, and the German secondary battleship, well, that's every German battleship, the German battleships are in a pretty good spot at the end of that 45 seconds. But of course, the target's got to stay in your range for those 45 seconds. More on that in a minute. So what else is up with these mechanics? You don't instantly lose the boost if you deselect that target. Let's say you're focusing on a cruiser, and then suddenly a DD pops up on the opposite side of your ship. If you select that DD, the boost now falls back to 75% of the accumulated boost, and then builds up from there. So you don't go all the way back down to scratch. It's pretty handy. And you start to lose the boost if you don't fire for 15 seconds. After those 15 seconds have passed, you lose the boost gradually over 10 seconds. So you got 25 seconds to find something else to shoot at before you completely lose your boost. Pretty fair, in my mind at least. And overall, these mechanics, what I think of these mechanics before even playing the ship. So the way these mechanics sound, it sounds pretty solid because it sounds like real-life naval artillery. They had to sight in their targets, they had to dial in their aim. The more they shot at the target, the more accurate they got. I like the way it sounds, and it's a pretty decent way to give us back some pretty darn accurate secondaries. So, in practice, what is this like now after having played it on the PT server? So, the PT server, there's of course a caveat with playing on that server. The vast majority of players you're running across, even in random battles in the PT server, are bots, because they use bots to fill in the slots. Now, that being said, I did run into a few real players. If there's roughly about 12 ships or 10 ships on the enemy team, because again, not only people play on the PT server, there's about 4 or 5 real players per side when I was playing at least. So I probably got a better session than most would just because of that right there. I played in the PT server quite a lot because, of course, covering new mechanics and ships and such, they often show up on the PT server before going on the live server sometimes. So I've been on here quite a lot, and there's usually not a lot of people actually playing on it. But anyway, the bots, of course, they aren't the brightest. They did improve the AI a little bit recently, but bots are very aggressive and like to Unga Bunga, which means that naturally they spend a lot of time in your secondary range, especially if you run a secondary build on your curve first like I did. Now, to note too is I didn't have Lucian's on the PT server, so I'm not getting his special boost or anything like that, so I'm playing with a normal commander, which gives you a pretty good idea of what it's going to be like for the average Joe, because not everyone has Lucian's, of course. So anyway, after those 10 seconds, it does really feel like you're at current secondaries in terms of accuracy. And then it feels like it builds up pretty decently quickly for me, at least. And then it keeps getting more and more accurate. And then when you get to the point where you're after the 45-second timer has kicked in, it really does feel like we're at roughly 90 to 95% of the old accuracy. And it's really not an issue to keep a ship in your secondary range for that long for most classes. And this is coming from my experience, of course, playing quite a few rounds in GK. I think I'm almost to 1,000 now. If you know what you're doing, too. Baiting ships in and trying to get them to chase after you. Now, of course, current World Warships, teams aren't very aggressive. Teams don't really push up. But again, we're not even thinking about that. We're just focusing on these secondaries versus the current secondaries, all right? So, anyway, 45 seconds isn't really that tall of an order for a cruiser or a battleship. Now, if the cruiser is like a French cruiser or one of the kiting cruisers or juking cruisers, they of course aren't going to get within your secondary range. But for the most part, the ships that you normally encounter in secondary range, you won't have any issue building up to this boost. And it's a really nice boost once it's built up and going. Now, the issue comes in, as many people pointed out in the first video I did covering these new commander skills, with destroyers. Destroyers, generally, if they want to torpedo rush you, they can do it before that timer's up and you have your full boost. That is very true. However, again, you have to think, if you're pushing and your secondary's already going, you're already building up that boost. And once you click over to the destroyer, it just drops down to 75% of where you're currently at and then begins to build up again. Now, if they bum rush you and they completely catch you off guard and you don't even have time to click on them, or you only click on them and within 10 seconds you're already dead, I hate to tell you, you were already dead in the first place if you let a DD get that close, or a DD ambushes you from that close of a range in a battleship. And honestly speaking, before the commander rework, I didn't really Death Star many DDs that were trying to torpedo rush me. This is something I brought up a lot when these changes were announced. It's just not something that you can do reliably. It did happen a few times, but it was with, like, again, the Ohio, Massachusetts, Georgia, and the Shikishima, because they had some really accurate secondaries. And the Shikishima, just because they had some freaking cracked out secondaries, too. But it may have happened a dozen times, if that, and this is coming from me. who I've played thousands and thousands of battles every year. So it just didn't really happen, and it's not going to happen because, again, DDs are quick, they're nimble, the captains dodge, the secondaries, they're AI secondaries, and again, unless you got something like the Shikishima, which had some really accurate and really fast reload time on her secondary guns, or like the Ohio or Masson, Georgia before that had some crazy accurate secondaries, it's just not going to happen. And honestly, if you're in a situation where a DD can close the gap from wherever he's at to wherever you're at in 10 seconds, you're in a bad situation, you're in a bad position, and especially if there's no one else around to help you. You know, you can't expect to just be this unstoppable force by yourself and just push something and just murder everything in your path. That's not going to happen. You need to be with your team. But anyway, the 45-second time that it takes for these guns to get to their full accuracy now with this skill, I think it's a good step in the right direction. However, 45 seconds is a pretty long time. And the thing is, it's a case of if it's any other class except for DDs, 45 seconds is ample time for your secondaries to hone in on the target. Cruisers, battleships, light cruisers, heavy cruisers too, they generally can't get out of that situation that fast to where they won't feel the wrath of your secondaries. And keep in mind too, even after 10 seconds, when you're up to the current accuracy of the secondaries, that's plenty enough to hit light cruisers, heavy cruisers, and battleships and be doing plenty of damage. It's the DDs that you're going to be struggling to hit. Which is why I would say I think a flat 30-second time for the secondaries to pick up and get to their full accuracy would be more apt. 10 seconds to get to the current accuracy, 20 seconds to get to the improved accuracy. Because most DDs, unless it's like a Harugumo or a Pan-Euro DD, they can easily leave your secondary range in about 30 seconds once they get spotted. And if they get stuck in there for that long, then they do deserve to be punished by some improved secondary fire. 45 seconds, even like the Harugumo with its engines knocked out, can get out of your secondary range by that point in time, and they should probably be partially on their way to just going back to port by that point if they stay within your secondaries for 45 seconds. And that's what I think about the 45-second timer. So, from my experience at least, it's really nice. It really is. As you can see from the footage behind you when it's not like lagging or just crunching out. I don't know what's up with the PT server, but you can see as the secondaries are firing, they really, it's amazing watching them go from basically bracketing the ship with every shot to slowly cranking back down to the good old 60% boost, or almost 60% boost of the olden days, and they just start drilling the ship. And these are German secondaries. These are now the most accurate secondaries in game, because the Americans don't get the 22.5% boost baked into their ships like the Germans do now. Will this fix the other secondary ships, though? Sadly, no. I'm pretty sure unless they give that boost to all the secondary ships, that 22.5% baked in improvement, it's just not going to work. But it'll be a little bit better. It will be, but it's still not there, in my opinion. I mean, you still have another 22% of accuracy that you're not getting. And if you guys remember, when I did run secondaries on the Shikishima on stream, it was beyond laughable. Like, the secondaries are literally landing nowhere near the target. I'm talking about 4 or 5 kilometers on either side of the ship they were supposed to be shooting at. So that's the thing, too. This is a good step in the right direction, especially for the Germans and the secondary ships we have right now. But for the other secondary ships, the French battleships, the Shikishima, some of the other Japanese secondary battleships, we still need them to get a little bit of love from Wargaming and get their baked-in boost secondary accuracy. Now, once they do that, I will be a very happy camper once I can run secondaries on my Shikishima again and have her back to her former glory. So wrapping up here at the end, the new secondary mechanics are a huge step in the right direction in my opinion, but they need to tone down that 45-second time to about 30-ish seconds, and then show the other secondary ships throughout the game, despite whatever nation that they're under, some love, and give them that baked-in secondary accuracy. Once they do that, then in my opinion, Wargaming will have redeemed themselves in the case of the crimes committed against the secondary battleships. Then they have to redeem themselves in the case of the crime committed against the Siegfried, and then I might forgive them for that too once they do that. So guys, that's my opinion on this matter. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Monday, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. We are on our way to 30,000 subs. We just passed 27,300 a few days ago, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.